Welcome, everyone, once again, or if it's the first time you're here, welcome to the Agroecology webinar series. My name is Evelyn Zuniga, and I am one of the communications officers for the Agroecology Partnership Project. What is the Agroecology Partnership? So the partnership officially started in January 2024, and it's funded on the Horizon Europe program, and it currently unites the European Commission and 72 partners across 26 member states, associated countries, and third countries. This partnership seeks to support the agriculture sector to meet the targets and challenges from the climate change, biodiversity loss, food security and sovereignty, and the environment. The partnership combines the resources of the European Commission and the participating countries to fund advanced research that generates essential knowledge and innovative technologies that closely aligns with its goals. This is the first webinar for the series Agroecology Biodiversity. And throughout this series, we will explore key practices, challenges, and innovations that can contribute to maintaining healthy and productive crops for resilient ecosystems. Just a housekeeping announcement. Feel free to type your questions in the Q&A section and the chat section that I'm enabled for everyone. And I'm going to do my best to address as many as we can with the time that we have. Today, we are very fortunate to have Dr. Marichelle Grau, who is currently the project manager at the Agriculture and Food Development Authority, Chagask, in Wexford, Ireland. So just give me 1 second. I need to share my screen real quick. Perfect. Okay. Dr. Grau-Butniak is a soil scientist whose work focuses on sustainable farming and biodiversity. She earned her PhD from the University of Galway in Ireland, studying soil microbial communities and greenhouse gas emissions. As project manager from the FarmBioNet project, she connects farmers, researchers, and advisors to promote biodiversity-friendly agriculture across Europe. The title of her talk today is Farmer-Focused Biodiversity and Agricultural Knowledge Network, which is the FarmBioNet project, and is being funded by Horizon Europe. Marichelle, thank you very much for joining us today, for accepting this invitation to give us some insight on what the project is about and how it can help biodiversity. I'm very excited to have you here. So I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen and you can start your presentation. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Evelyn, for the introduction. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here. You should be able to see the presentation in presentation mode.
Yes, perfect.
Ideal. Yeah, thanks so much, Evelyn, for being here, and everyone. As Evelyn said, my name is Marichelle Grau. I'm the project manager for the FarmBioNet project, and I'm just going to give you an overview of what we've been up to for the past 10 months with some starting results and just let you know what the project is about. So before we start, a poll will come live, and if you'd like to fill it in, just to give us an idea of your background, just to see who's in the audience, just being a little bit nosy, really.
Should I launch it now, the poll?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. So
Thanks so much. No, you're fine. Perfect. Yeah, if you'd like to fill in the poll, there's no pressure. You can do multiple choice just to get an idea. Thanks so much, Evelyn. Also, there was a little QR code on the waiting list. This is for the survey we have live at the moment. So we will also put the link in the chat for you to access the survey. And it would really appreciate if you gave us your input as we're trying to gather some more information regarding some of the points I will be presenting during the presentation. I will see if I can see the poll to get an idea on the answers.
People are still replying.
Perfect. Can you see the numbers, Evelyn, actually?
Oh, you cannot see it from your side?
No, or
okay.
I don't know how to.
So we have 52%. Most of the people are academia and research.
Okay.
Then it's followed by group of farmers, nice. 23%. Then we have advisory and education is kind of tight, 17 and 17%. Yeah, it's tight.
Nice.
Non-governmental organizations, we have 10%. Business, we have 8%. Policymakers, we have 4%. And foresters is the last one, we have 2%.
Nice. This is really good. Welcome, everyone. This is great because that's what FarmBioNet is trying to do, bring everyone together. So let me give you a kickstart with an overview of the project. So FarmBioNet is aiming to enhance biodiversity-friendly farming practices, which I will be referring to as BFF, across Europe by stimulating knowledge exchange between farmers, foresters, researchers, advisors, and any other key stakeholder. And I think it's really fitting that biodiversity friendly farming abbreviates to BFF because I think we should all be best friends forever with biodiversity. But what's actually a BFF practice? So there is no universal definition. However, it's an action that stops biodiversity loss and or increases biodiversity at local scale and also focuses on more resilient farming systems. And resilient farms maintain ecological functions of biodiversity at a local scale. But why is FarmBioNet putting BFF practices at the core of its project and its goals? Is biodiversity under pressure? Is there any threats? So let's have some context about biodiversity loss. There's been a 73% decline in biodiversity between 1970 and 2020. You can see here in the graph, the greener the bands, the more biodiversity present with a decrease over time. This is for global biodiversity. And with some more facts, if we look at butterflies, there's been a 76% increase in numbers for threatened European butterfly species. And also a recent study that assessed bee species found that there is 172 of 1,928 bee species that are at risk of extinction. So why are these numbers threatening? Obviously, this shows that there is a clear biodiversity loss across Europe. Since there is a decrease in biodiversity, but it's also present in European farmland. And this is a negative outcome since biodiversity-rich agricultural systems are more resilient to climate change and crop diseases, as we were saying, resilient farming systems. And biodiversity is actually beneficial and essential for agriculture by providing ecosystem services. So if we look at the threats on pollinators, such as butterflies and bees, obviously these insects can provide pollination of crops. This is an example of an ecosystem service, but biodiversity can also provide services such as increasing water storage capacity, better soil health, and others. So it's really important for these loss of biodiversity to be slowed down or, if possible, contract. And therefore, I think it's really important to picture biodiversity as a net. The more complex and interwoven the net is, the stronger it becomes. So it's crucial to integrate and enhance biodiversity management on all farms to preserve biodiversity in all agricultural systems. So I think this gives a great context on why FarmBioNet is trying to enhance the knowledge and information on practices that benefit biodiversity in farms across all of Europe. So I will just introduce you all of the partners within the consortium that are working to make this possible. So FarmBioNet consists of a total of 19 partners across 13 countries. And as you can see, we have a diversity of organizations present within the consortium. Here are all of our members. And I think it's really important to have this diversity so we can have access to diverse knowledge of expertise regarding different aspects within biodiversity friendly farming practices. So what we as a consortium are aiming to achieve with FarmBioNet is obviously to collect information on BFF practices. This is the core of the project. And for this, collecting this information, we want to make sure that we have information on what farm types BFF practice can be implemented in, which incentives are available for the implementation of this BFF practice across all of our partner countries and in Europe, and also identify and gather knowledge around the benefits that BFF practices bring. And these are not only biodiversity advantages, but also economic benefits of the implementation of BFF practices in farms. Once we have this starting information on a specific best practice, we also want to identify specific needs and knowledge gaps. And this is actually the information we're currently gathering on our live survey. And what we're trying to do with those gaps is trying to understand what resources are needed for the BFF practice implementation. Is there any challenges in trying to implement these practices? But also the knowledge stakeholders have regarding incentives available. Maybe a farmer has implemented BFF practice and does not know or is not aware that there might be an incentive there available for that specific implementation. With all this information, we'll try and produce a calculator and navigator tool. I'll be talking about them later on. Also, we want to make sure the information can be presented in an easy, clear, straightforward format for any stakeholder to benefit from them. And this will come in the form of different training materials, such as videos, practice abstracts, and others. And finally, we want to build trust between all stakeholders that are collaborating or getting involved with our project, which I will also be talking about a little bit later. So to achieve all these aims, I just want to give you an overview of the structure of our project. We have core work packages, which are project management, ethics, since we're collaborating with the stakeholders and gathering data from different participants, and obviously a strong work packages on communication and dissemination of our results. Then we have work package 1 and 2, which are more focused on the collection of data. So this first step of gathering any information available around BFF practices. Work package 3 and 4 are more the interaction with our participants and our stakeholders. And finally, we have work package 5, in which the tools, including the calculator and the navigator, will be developed. And obviously, from these work packages, we'll have different outcomes, which will help to achieve our aims, including 12 farming and biodiversity national networks, which I'll explain you in a bit what they are, 1 European thematic network, 2 decision support tools, as I mentioned, the calculator and the navigator. We'll produce a range of training materials and we'll host a total of 59 workshops. In the output side, our communication and dissemination partner has been working on making sure our website is up to scratch. This was launched from the start of the project, and you can find a newsroom where we keep you updated with some information through articles and blog posts, updates on the project, and also collaboration with other projects within Europe that are doing work that's relevant for us. And we want to ensure we're bringing all the information and collaboration together. We also have an archive of all our past newsletters, and all these newsletters are available in 10 languages across all our partners. And finally, we also have a section where there is information on how to join our national network. And again, this is for any type of stakeholder that might find the project relevant and would like to share their own knowledge and experience as well. So I've now been mentioning the national networks, but what are they? So the national networks, we established 12 across our project in 12 different countries, and they aim to promote biodiversity in farms. And to do so, we want to make sure that within the national networks, there is an exchange of traditional and evidence-based actions around implementation of BFF practice in the farms. And this is core for our project to make sure that we can encourage peer-to-peer learning, knowledge transfer, and knowledge sharing across all our stakeholders that have joined the network. And as I mentioned from the start of the presentation, we are trying to make sure that any key stakeholder involved in the agricultural frame that might benefit from learning about BFF practices or can provide information regarding their implementation can be involved and share the knowledge. Here, there's a picture of our Irish National Network work on a farm visit, which will also make sure that it allows all stakeholders to interact with each other and see BFF practice implemented in different farms across each of the countries. And the conglomeration of the 12 national networks becomes into our European thematic network. And here are some numbers for you. So of August 2025, we had a total of 471 members. And here is a stakeholder distribution of the members from all the countries put together. And as you can see, we have a great representation of farmers, followed by academia and research and advisory. But our national networks are still open for new members to join. So if you think that you'd be interested to join, you're more than welcome. As I said, there's more information on our website. You can email us at FarmBioNet@chargas.ie. And the reason we're still looking for members is to make sure that our thematic network has a wide and variety of stakeholders represented and being able to have their own saying within the network. And through the national networks, month of the project, we've done a great range of activities already. So we've hosted up to 36 network meetings. We have organized 18 farm exchange visits. We've attended 14 BF related events such as open days, conferences, and others. And we've circulated 26 national network newsletters. And these activities are the core activities for us to kick off the project and make sure we could start gathering information. So I'm going to talk you now through how we've been gathering data around BFF practices and what we've been doing with the data we've collected. So we started with an expert consultation. So we asked members within all the national networks to give us information on BFF practices they are familiar with, they know of, or they have implemented themselves. But we also asked within our consortium members to gather information from all the different expertise all our members can provide. Following the expert consultation, we did a desk study, so we went on to do a literature review in which we focused on peer-reviewed evidence-based actions. And here I have an example for you, which is the Farming for Nature handbook, which is an excellent handbook for BFF practice information. And from the expert consultation, and we ended up with a final list of 58 BFF practices. And here I'm just giving you 2 examples, including hedgerows and reduced cutting frequency, as well as bee scripts. So why are we gathering this data? As I said, BFF practices are the core focus of the FarmBioNet project, and we need this information. And we're trying to see which practices are implemented across the countries within the project. We also want to make sure that we can provide clear examples of BFF practices for all stakeholders to have access to. And finally, we need all this relevant information, both from a diversity and economic point of view, to be able to feed the data into the decision-making tools that we'll be developing within the project. So how did we collect the data? We had 2 main events. We had workshops and surveys, and I will start presenting you some of the data we collected through the workshops. So in our first workshop, we discussed with our national network members the 58 practices that we selected, and we asked them to rate them from 1 to 10 on the expected biodiversity advantage as well as the expected economic benefit. And the graph here shows you the average ratings of all BFF practices across the different countries our project is involved in. And I'd like to highlight that regarding the rating of economic benefits of BFF practice for Spain is quite low. And I think this shows the need for more information to be available for the stakeholders to be aware of what are the benefits of BFF practices, not only from a biodiversity point of view, but for an economic point of view from the farmer. And to give you context, we had a total of 164 participants in our workshop. There was a high representation of livestock and mixed farming with regional market focus, but we had a good balance across all participants of conventional organic farming systems, as well as in intensive and extensive farming approaches. So our partners from ZALF, they carried out the data analysis. And here we have every BF practice from our 58 list with their final ratings on the average from all partners. So on the top right corner of the Go Zone map, we have practices that rated high on economic and biodiversity advantages, such as maintaining and protecting rich native meadows and moving livestock periodically to minimize overgrazing. If we move on to the bottom right, we have practices that rated lower in economic but higher on biodiversity, such as creating and maintaining ponds. To the left side, on the bottom left side of the graph, we have practices that scored that were rated lower on economic and biodiversity, such as plant flowering or pollinator strips on grasslands. And finally, on the top left, we have practices that had a higher economic and a lower biodiversity ratings. And the example here is marketing products from agroforestry trees. These are the average from the thematic network, but we have Go Zone maps specifics for each country involved. As I mentioned, we not only did host workshops, but we also circulated surveys. This is a summary of the participants from our first survey, which had a total of 180 participants. And within the survey, we asked different questions around BFF practices, including for them to rank topics associated to these BFF practices. For example, in the graph here, we're showing the rating of BFF practices based on the co-benefit of biodiversity-friendly farming, with improved soil health scoring the highest. We also asked to rank the threats to biodiversity on the farm with changes in land use scoring highest. And another example is challenges associated with implementation, in which lack of knowledge was ranked highest. And again, I think this just shows how important it is to gather the information and make sure it's in a single place and accessible to any stakeholder that might benefit from it. Also, within the survey, we asked participants to list up to 10 BFF practices they could think of. So from the 180 participants that took part in the survey, we gathered a total of 1,056 BFF practices. As you can think, some of these practices might be quite similar, or might be the same BFF practices, slightly written different. So what we did was we gathered all of these BRF practices and grouped them in different categories. And we ended up with a total of 28 categories. And I'm going to use action for pollinators as the example of one of the categories we created. And within these different categories, we had specific BFF practices associated to them. So for example, within action for pollinator categories, we had the mention of bee boxes as a BFF practice, as well as bee scrapes. But we are not only gathering information regarding BFF practice on the biodiversity side of things, we also want to see the advantages from an economical point of view. So we've also been focusing on collecting data for incentives associated to BFF practices. And we started with a desk study on existing incentives. And what we did was we looked at the common agricultural policy pillars, pillar 1 and 2, in which pillar 1 has the eco schemes, and these incentives focus on direct support. And in pillar 2, we looked at the AECMs. This funding focuses on rural development, and they are part of the CAP pillar 2. And we looked across the CAPs for all 11 countries. Switzerland was not included because they have a different funding system, but we're also looking at their form of incentives. And finally, as I said, through the surveys, we were not only gathering information and knowledge from our participants on the biodiversity side of things for BFF practices, but also their knowledge regarding incentives associated to these BFF practices. So for the desk study on incentives, we looked at ACMs, and here the word cloud was created with the titles of all the measures listed in the CAPs across all 11 countries, with the exception of Switzerland. And obviously, this is just to get an overview of what each CAP pillar is providing. So the more frequent a word was present in the title, the larger it is. In this case, we can see the ACM's commitment really stands out, which just focuses on the length of commitment periods of the incentive provided by ACMs. And if we look at eco schemes instead, we see other words being more present throughout the titles of all the measures available under eco schemes. Desk study also focused on finding incentive associated to specific practices. So here is a small example with hedgerows, hay management, tree planting, reduced fertilizer, and reduced pesticides focus. This is preliminary data. All of our national network leads are currently reviewing and making sure no incentive was missed for any of the BFF practices. And again, Switzerland is also being included in a separate table as they have their own incentive system. And showing you some of the data from not only the desk studies, but also the surveys regarding the knowledge of incentives. So when participants that took part in the survey, we asked them if they were aware of, they had knowledge of incentives associated to specific BFF practices. Here we have the same examples as before. And I'd love to highlight Switzerland, where it shows there is a great knowledge from the national network members in Switzerland of the incentives available associated to some of the BFF practices. And I would also like to highlight Ireland. In Ireland, there was significant amount of answers saying I don't know or no regarding information on incentives for reduced fertilizer. However, incentives are available for reduced fertilizer inputs. So I think it's really, again, really important to find a way where knowledge regarding those incentives can be easily found by stakeholders so they can benefit from them and implement BFF practices. So starting to wrap up, as I said, the project has been going on for the past 10 months, and we've started working on the core of the project, which is getting a selection of BFF practices and gathering as much information as possible with all these associated to all these practices. But what are we going to do with this information? As I mentioned, I've been talking about the decision support tool. So we're going to create and navigate one-stop shop with all information associated to BFF practices from the farm type, the co-benefits, and any incentive available associated to the specific BFF practice, and also a calculator, which is an economic planning tool. So the tools will be developed from next year with the start of Work Package 5. We are not sure at the moment what they will look like, but here I just created in a schematic to give you an idea of what we're trying to provide with this tool. With the navigator tool, we'll have a series of filters, so you can find a specific information based on the stakeholder group, the farm type, the type of incentive you're looking for. They're going to be region specific, specific for a BFF practice, or maybe specific keywords that might benefit filter out some of the incentive but not be applicable to specific stakeholders. And once all the relevant filters have been selected, the Navigator tool will provide an output of specific incentives that are relevant for the stakeholder looking for the information. And the information of the incentive will include if these are funded through public or private bodies, the region they are applicable to, and will guide you to the source where the incentive comes from to learn more on how to apply and benefit from that incentive. With the calculator tool, we have the exact same situation. It will start being developed next year. In the picture, you can see Stefan from Studia, one of our partners in Austria. He will be in charge of developing these tools, and the tool will focus on a total of 10 BFF practices, and this is to make sure that they are practices that are relevant across all of Europe and across all of the countries involved with the project. It will include a cost benefits analysis, ensure that there are easy to identify co-benefits for the BFF practices, so an advantage, a biodiversity advantage as well as an economic benefit, and it will include economic and non-economic factors within the cost-benefit analysis associated to the BFF practices available through the calculator tool. As I said, these are the next steps, starting to development of these decision tools, but we're also going to be working on other aspects. Once again, the project started in January 2025. We are now in November. Before the end of the year, we'll be circulating another newsletter to all of our national network members. And then from the new year onwards, we will carry on hosting workshops and farm walks. And this is to make sure that all of our members can benefit from meeting face-to-face with ourselves, but also any other stakeholder to be able to exchange information, experiences on how they've been doing implementing different BFF practices, and in the farm goals being able to see how these practices are applied. Also, by the end of the project, we will produce 2 policy recommendation files, which will be publicly available. But throughout the 2 remaining years of the projects, apart from working and developing the decision-making tools, the navigator and the calculator, we will also be producing a range of training materials. And as I mentioned, these will be easy accessible and make sure the information is clear and understanding, and they'll come in every shape and form possible. Practice abstracts, videos, and anything else that our national network members might suggest that they might find useful. But we don't only want to produce outputs for the project, we also want to make sure that we attend different events where we can also learn and the project can benefit from. So if there are any topics or there are any events coming up that you think FarmBioNet could benefit from and learn from others, please put your suggestions in the chat. We're more than welcome to join any event that we can collaborate with. And with that, I think I just want to thank you all for your time. Please do not hesitate to get in touch, FarmBioNet at chargas.ie. I will guide you to the right partner if you are not based in Ireland. And as I mentioned before, we have a live survey. We'll put the link in the chat as well. You can scan the QR code, and we're trying to fill in all those knowledge gaps to understand where we should focus our efforts in producing some of those training materials. I will try my best now to answer all your questions. So yeah, I hope you enjoy my presentation. Thank you so much.
That's excellent. Thank you very much, Marichelle.
Thank you.
So as I said before, people can put your question in the chat section and the Q&A section. So while people are typing away, I just have a few questions actually myself, like just giving time for people to type. So I was wondering what will be kind of the metrics or the indicators that you will use to evaluate the impact of the project. So like the number of farms that are adopting BFF practices, or like improved biodiversity indicators or farmer profitability. Is there any
Yeah,
aspect of this?
so we're not going to do any biodiversity surveys. Say that some of our members have a farm where they've implemented the BFF practice. We won't go out over the 3 years and carry out field work to see from year 1 to year 3 if there's been an increase in biodiversity. We will focus more on the communication and production of materials and collaboration across the members of the national networks. So I think it'll be more making sure that the materials are there, they are available for people to use, and that they can be carried on onto future projects, but also that once they are there, they are accessible and keep use, and that work is not repeated. So
Yeah.
that's why we're focusing on on collaboration across other projects which are doing field work, making sure that we unite all forces. So it's more making ensuring that the materials will be available and used rather than maybe a more field work focused approach. And obviously, once the tools start to come live as well, see how they are being used, how we can maximize their outreach. And I suppose we can track metrics there on how the tools are being used as well.
Yeah, that makes sense because it's a 3-year project, if I'm not mistaken. So it
They,
requires a
so
longer
can,
effort. Like it makes sense
yes,
that it's that you want to establish the network and
exactly,
then you kind of
exactly.
evaluate what are the outcomes. But it just, I understand it is 3 years and it takes longer time to be able to
Yes.
implement these kind of things. So then the measures that you mentioned, sorry, the measures, no, the training materials, is there plans like is it going to be translated to different languages?
Yes,
Ah, right.
we with the practice abstracts, I believe we are planning on translating them. The videos, each national networks will produce their own videos as well, so some of them will already be available not on English, and we'll look at options of translating. But yeah, a lot of the training materials we're aiming to produce in more than just one language.
All right. Okay. So we have a question here from the audience. It says, I want to join the project and I want to share your experience to distribute for Africa. I presume like it's not, it's European kind of, but you are distributing the materials to whoever
Exactly.
works for it.
Yes, definitely. And again, they can get in touch with us. And while the project is not, it's European focused at this point, obviously there's always room for collaboration and being able to learn, even just to make sure that we are disseminating the knowledge well and that's reachable for everyone. It might give you as insight on how to broadcast information better. And we might be able to learn from each other. There might be practices. I think it's important as well, especially since we talked about farm resilience, climate change is happening. And while some of the practices that maybe are now being implemented in the south of Spain are not relevant for Ireland, you never know how we can learn or adapt in the future. So I think it's really important as well to stay in touch, collaborate, and see how the materials can be applicable and used in other settings.
Yeah, that makes all sense. So we have a question here. It says, as a farmer, when I will be sure that any chemicals used on my farm have been tested for biodiversity loss.
Oh, I don't know if I have the exact answer to that. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. However, if you want to get the send FarmBioNet an email, I can make sure to point you in the right direction and give you a proper answer. Sorry about that.
That's how it starts, like the discussion, and then we just try to
Yes,
find out the answers to the right person. Let me check if we have more questions here. Some person saying they're a member of permaculture collab, and there could be collaborations possible with this circle. So this is in the chat.
definitely.
Is a comment, so it's a very long comment where kind of what they do and everything.
Again, yeah, I'll keep an eye, but if you want to email FarmBioNet, we are making sure industry and business is also present within our national networks. Again, to make sure there's trust across all stakeholders and make sure that each other understand as well how BVF practices are implemented and maximize the outcome and success of the project as well as of their interactions and collaborations.
All right. So I was wondering, so the project kind of emphasizes on low cost and practical actions for biodiversity on farms. So is there like any example of like a quick win example practice that a farmer could adopt tomorrow and it doesn't require a very heavy investment?
I think coming from someone that does not have the biodiversity background like some of our partners, from what we've been seeing in the farm visits, I think the bee boxes
Mm.
or the bee scrapes can be a quick and really quick one for farmers to implement. With bee scrapes, one of the farms we went to, it's literally on the side of a field that might have a bit of an incline from cattle just scratching and sitting and lying down. It creates a patch of bare soil.
Mhm.
And this then allows the cell to be exposed for solitary bees to be able to access and forms the bee scrape. So that alone, it's the cattle having a nice scratch. And in turn, it benefits solitary bees to be able to access the bee scrape, the bare soil to be able to access it. So, but again, I the practice abstracts will start coming out soon, and if anyone has any suggestions on what practices might be relevant to put in the practice abstract form that will help farmers, as you say, something easy and quick to implement, we're more than happy to make sure that those are included.
Perfect. And also, like, if you, everyone, if you're wondering how else you can help, it is good if you complete the survey that I just put the
Yes,
link there, because this helps them to get informed on different kind of practices
definitely.
and things that are going on. So this is like a very kind of easy way that you also can contribute to this project. Let me see. There's a question here. So somebody's asking, will guidance or actions be tailored to different scales on farms? And if so, how are you planning to maybe tailor for different scales? I imagine might become later. I don't know. Hi, Marshall, do you hear me? Hello? I lost you there for a second. Do you hear me?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I hear you
Perfect.
now. Sorry,
No
Evelyn.
problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it
So
the one
I was
about the
just
Spain?
It says no. It says, will guidance or actions be tailored to different scales of farms? And if so, like, how was the plan to do that?
Yes. So again, within our national networks, we are lucky that we have a great representation of farmers that are doing both intensive and extensive. Some of them are certified organic. We have a great representation. So as we carry on the workshops, we want to make sure that the materials we produce are applicable to any specific setting. So that's going to be more of a back and forth feedback between the materials we're producing and what the information is given to us by the national network meets. So it will be probably taken into consideration. We haven't started working on the practice abstracts. We have an idea of what topics we'd like to cover, but it's definitely great feedback for me to take back and make sure that we don't focus or are too narrow-minded, but make sure that the information is as applicable. I know I'm not answering your question specifically on how we're going to do it, but again, we are learning from talking to the members and making sure that what we produce is applicable and relevant for everyone.
Yeah, that's perfect. We have a comment here, a comment and a question. It says, we appreciated your wonderful presentation in Nepal. So we are going like all the
But
way to
nice.
Nepal. We are promoting agroecology through a national network and are seeking to join international networks for knowledge and exchange. Could you please advise us on how we might connect with your network and or others? Like, what would you recommend?
There is a good few projects at the moment around biodiversity. So there's definitely information and potential collaboration there. And I'm sure throughout the length of our projects, there'll be opportunities maybe through conferences or other events that are more national to come across and get to know each other. So with our network, we're taking members within the European countries the project is involved, but that doesn't mean that we cannot have communication and share tips on how maybe we've managed to make farmers more engaged or have made the events more beneficial for the farmers by combining a workshop and a farm walk so we maximize their time. So more than happy to get in touch and see what opportunities are there.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I'll just get you guys in touch. I'll get that email and send it on to you.
Yes.
Okay, so we have one here. It says that Jorge Blanco works in X Farm Technologies, and his question is, what is your opinion of the fact that Spain has less knowledge or less awareness about subsidies on BFF practices? It's a
Uh,
matter, sorry, I didn't finish. It's a
no,
matter
you're
of,
fine. You're fine.
it's a matter of unknowledge of the farmer about the Spanish cultural reasons or a problem about the government. Really, there is not enough call for subsidies.
So I haven't seen all the data for the desk study regarding the incentives to see what incentives are already available in Spain through the CAP funding and in sorry incentives. Sorry, oh my God, apologies. But I think it's really complex and there is no a one shoe fits all solution. So it could be a mix of both. Maybe there is an extent amount of subsidies. Some of them are not just funded through Europe, but there has to be also regional government help. So there might be, and then it might be harder than you think to find that information. So it could be a bit of a combination of both. And I think that's really important for us to put the time now, sit down, talk with the members that have joined the Spanish network and understand what are they struggling. And this is what our survey that's live now at the moment is. What are the gaps? What are the challenges? Is the website not user friendly? Is the information just not out there? Is it just word of mouth of someone in a cooperative that knows someone that has found an incentive? So, and I think it's not just in Spain, I think it's across all countries. While the results showed that Spain seemed to be the lowest in scoring, especially economic benefit, there is still a lot of gaps in regarding how to find and access the information easily and in an efficient way.
All right.
Thank
And
you. I
I,
hope
I
that
have
answers
I have just popped again the
the
survey there
survey.
for people to
Amazing. Thanks so
just to
much.
copy and paste before we close the webinar. So
Yes.
okay, so we have another question here. It says, does the network intend to communicate knowledge about the benefits of field margins for biodiversity on tillage or arable farms?
110%. This is a great example of a practice abstract. And what we want to
Oh,
make sure is that through some of our members that have farms that may have already implemented this, to be able to show in the practice abstracts, like this is an example of a BFF practice. There is a case study, and this person has already implemented it, and this is what we've seen. So yes, this is a great example of what a training material output could be. And that could be done in the form of a practice abstract, but also if we know of someone that's implemented it, we could go and ask for their help, collaboration in producing a video or another form of training material. Maybe how did they plant it, when did they do it, etc. So yes, definitely a great example.
okay, that's fantastic. Let me just get maybe the last question. Oh, there's many offers of people wanting to collaborate. I'll make sure
I
to
will
pass
be in
on
touch,
that
please.
information. And let me see. Let me see here. I just have a question here. So, let me see. Just do. Okay. So, I was just kind of wondering. So, what is, let's say, one myth about biodiversity in farming that you would like to say, like, okay, no, this is really not true. Like
A
to
myth.
debunk.
A myth.
Hmm.
Oh, I would say the myth that biodiversity is not important would be a great myth. I think obviously climate change is well known now. People are aware of its consequences and how devastating it can be, but I think biodiversity loss is definitely as scary as challenging. And you can think from when you are younger, and if you would go out in the evening, maybe to see some bats or see any sort of biodiversity. And now, maybe, at least from my own experience going back now home, I definitely see that there is a lot less happening. And it's just sparking that curiosity of like, why are we not paying the same amount of attention when it's something that we get so much joy and so many good memories from? And again, how beneficial it is. It's really scary. 73% decrease in biodiversity from the 70s to the 2020s is not that much time. And it's a huge stat. So I think the myth of like, we need to focus biodiversity's loss is not as scary as climate change. No, they are go hand in hand, and one will minimize the other, and it's just a really complex network. But yeah, I think the myth to get rid of everyone's head is that it's much more scary than we think.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think it is a great way to kind of close the webinar, and I just want to I really appreciate you coming here and kind of showing us this project, which is like very important, the networking between different EU countries, and even like it can extend beyond to be able to preserve the biodiversity, which is so important. So I'm just gonna announce like our next webinar is also going to be on the biodiversity topic, and it's going to be on December 12th. I'll be sending the invitations to everyone in the coming days. And in that webinar, we will have Dr. Kostadinos Matas from the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki giving our second talk on biodiversity, and he will be talking about the project BioValue, which is Farm to Fork Agent-Based Simulation Tool Augmenting Biodiversity in the Agri-Food Value Chain. So I'll be very happy to see you all there. Thank you very much, everyone, for the engagement and for your questions. And I'll make sure to pass all the contacts to Marichelle. And thank you very much all for joining. Thank you, Marichelle, for joining us and for the
Thanks so
presentation.
much. Yes,
And
I'll make sure to follow back with anyone. Thank you so much.